What we do here is go back.
So this is Louis, and I am incredibly tired, and you're going to have to forgive me for that. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and I had a long case today in Pennsylvania. Drove back here, and I said on Twitter that I'd talk about this, and, I'll keep my word here. I'll try to do my best despite the current circumstances of being incredibly tired and talk about the story revolving around Media Matters, Tucker Carlson going on Bubba the Love Sponge, who was a shock jock that I'm only kind of aware of. Back in the day, I used to listen to a little bit of Howard Stern, but it was mostly around, let me see here, Artie Lang. I forgot his name for a second. Artie Lang, who was a heroin addict and still has problems today with a variety of issues involving addiction. When he was on Howard Stern, I listened to Howard Stern, but that was about as much as I was involved with any kind of shock jock entertainment back in the day. As far as I'm aware, that type of entertainment has kind of fallen by the wayside. It seems to be something that mainly boomers and Gen Xers were into, like they listen to on their way to work and while they're at work. But it is to say that this is dated. Tucker Carlson was, believe it or not, it was back when he worked on MSNBC. It was when he was going on Bubba the Love Sponge, and he apparently went on a few times, as far as I'm aware, to talk about a variety of issues, many of which are not really that controversial to anyone who's not a fucking child in terms of their morality. One of the things that he got in trouble for was talking about some cultist of some stripe who was facilitating marriages between adults and people that were right around the age of consent. And apparently it's wrong of him to say that it's questionable whether it's facilitation of rape to, not in law, but in religious aspect, marry a couple of which one is 27 and the other is 16. I'm not really sure if anyone's aware of this, but the age of consent, one, is 16 in a whole slew of states, including many around me. I mean, I was in Pennsylvania today. It's fucking 16 in Pennsylvania. It's 16 in Nevada, Washington, I think that's Montana, Wisconsin, Ohio. Is that Michigan? Yeah, Michigan, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, if I didn't already say, Maine, all of Canada. I think it's still 14 in Mexico. There is no objective age of consent. And if you look at the Caribbean, it goes down as far as 12, and even in some cases less than 12, although I think there's only one example of that, and I don't even know what fucking country it is on the map. Age of consent is subjective, and anyone that's not a fucking child understands why. It's because not everyone becomes sexually active at the exact same time, but in terms of contract, voting, age of majority, all the rest of the fucking shit that comes with rights and responsibilities, you have to assign a date, an age, to whatever we're talking about. Voting, gun rights, and that's even subjective. Like, what you can own when, what you can use when. That's also state by state as far as I'm aware. So as it relates to contract, age of consent, firearm ownership and your rights, or even privileges such as driving and access to driving, none of that is objective, and it's all, as far as I can tell, state by state with some limited exceptions in terms of like voting, which I believe is a federal standard. From there, the controversies aren't really much more than him using naughty language. Like the second batch of tapes that were released from Media Matters were him using bad words like cunt, cunty, faggot, and other such things that is in no way outside of my vernacular. I've used far worse words, even on my own channel. Many of the things that Tucker Carlson said while on Bubba the Love Sponge were sarcastic, were jokes, or in the context of being hyperbolic and in a joking sense, where the host, Bubba, would play up something. He would say something incendiary and extreme, and Tucker Carlson would, for the sake of the bit, agree with him or say something equally incendiary. If you are retarded, you might not be able to understand the context of that, but if you watch 5 minutes of, I would assume, Bubba, or back in the day, Howard Stern, you'll be able to understand what the joke is. The joke is one person says something incendiary, the other person either agrees or tops that person for contending with the joke of saying something extreme. That's why they're called shock jocks. The entire purpose is to be incendiary, to be hyperbolic, to say extreme things, to make extreme jokes and be offensive for the sake of entertainment. And if you go on their shows, they're going to ask you inappropriate questions, or at least they did back in, when they actually did that kind of content. They would ask you extreme questions, gross questions, things that no other interviewer would ask for the sake of humor, for the sake of shock. Tucker Carlson's behavior on those shows, as far as I can tell, the entirety of it is simply being part of the bit, being humorous, or saying things that are not controversial to anyone that is not a moralizing faggot and likely a hypocrite in that regard. If you'd like to, I have linked all of the tape and the transcript of all the things that he said. I'm going to try to see if I can dig up the second batch. I'm not really sure where that's at, but I saw it earlier today. It's very similar to the first, with some exceptions of just him saying extreme things and also using bad words like fag. There's not really much more to it than that. But the reason I'm talking about this is that this was a solid attempt to take down Tucker Carlson. This was an attempt to get Fox News, the news corporation that is the parent company of Fox, to fire Tucker Carlson, to shut him up. And the reason is, as I said on Twitter, it's because Tucker Carlson is not Ben Shapiro. Tucker Carlson is no longer the National Review Weekly Standard style conservative. Like, he has long since lost the bow tie. I have seen routinely him say on his own show that he has had his own personal philosophy as a conservative challenged by the fact that he has seen certain things put in practice and the solutions not actually pan out, and that some problems have come from philosophical conservative policy, and also that having a society based simply around consumerism isn't leading to good results, and that is something that the Weekly Standard style, National Review style conservatives, that's all they have to offer. With Ben Shapiro in particular, the issue is the policies that him, Mitt Romney, and the corporate style Republicans and so-called conservatives, what they offer is not actually a substitute for the problems that are in America. If you have a problem with identity, if you've lost your job, if you're having family problems, if you're having all sorts of issues personally, and that might include, in terms of your own faith, I don't think listening to Ben Shapiro or following through with what he offers, and to some extent, especially economically, I would argue, I don't think it's going to solve anything. The only thing that, maybe could solve things is, deregulation on sole proprietors, whatever, stuff like that. But in terms of immigration, the things that Ben Shapiro would advocate would only it would only exacerbate the decay that's happening in the United States. And I say that because when you have Mexicans running around the country, and it's not just them, but when you have Mexicans running around the country speaking Spanish, having no reason to learn English, and flying Mexican flags, and it's not anything extraordinary if you go out west. When you have those kind of things occurring, it creates a crisis of identity for the rest of the United States, for actual native-born Americans or actually integrated naturalized citizens. It creates a crisis of identity for them because it challenges the validity of the idea of being American. And unfortunately, in the press, in the media, in entertainment, in our culture, it is extremely in vogue to reject and lampoon, mock the idea of accepting being an American and that being a uniting factor. It is incredibly in vogue right now in our culture to reject that, and that is incredibly dangerous. But getting all the way back, and I apologize for that tangent, but I believe it to be relevant. Despite what I've said about Ben Shapiro, I believe, has written more than one article defending Tucker Carlson and what he said and his position in the conservative movement. There's been several people at the National Review that have defended Tucker Carlson, including multiple articles from David French, who I believe is more Ben Shapiro-style Republican. There's been at least one person at CNN who I believe is like a conservative contributor who's defended him there. Raheem Kassem, who some of you might recall, he's former UKIP, and he's like a pundit now. I think he started some website recently. He defended Tucker Carlson at the Daily Caller, wrote an op-ed talking about that. So there's quite a few, not all though. There's a bunch of conservatives. I don't really have anything on hand, but I have seen a couple people talking about throwing Tucker under the bus. And the reason is because Tucker Carlson is no longer the Mitt Romney-style conservative. He's no longer the pundit that's going to tell you to endlessly vote for the Republican Party and suck the dick of just the worst conservatives, even though he personally disagrees with them. He's not going to do that anymore. I've seen him admit in front of his own audience, in front of millions of viewers, that's been placed on YouTube on the Fox News channel, where he's flat out said that he doesn't have solutions to problems that exist, that conservatives don't have solutions as far as they can tell to certain issues, and that his own philosophy has been called into question based on the severity of the problems that he sees in the United States. And that is something an honest person does. I don't understand the hatred of certain people such as Styx Hexenhammer. Styx Hexenhammer hates Tucker Carlson, and I don't really have any understanding of why other than he's on Fox. That seems to be his only reasoning for why Tucker Carlson, in his view, is a hack and a liar and totally just worthless and can be dispensed with without a second thought. He's not alone in that opinion. But I say, after watching him off and on for the past year or two, that Tucker Carlson is definitely one of the good conservatives out there. He plays the partisan bullshit game every once in a while, and some parts of his show are just filler nonsense and partisan nonsense. But oftentimes he will engage in very serious discussions and very serious arguments with people. In many cases, people he disagrees with, and at times he will be humble enough to admit that he doesn't have an answer to what's being discussed, and he's very concerned about that fact, the fact that he doesn't know what to do, and the fact that he, despite being a relatively intelligent person in the media, in talking to intelligent people, doesn't have any kind of solution, that doesn't see a solution for some problems. I rarely see that in the mainstream media. I really do think that it's unfair to regard him as just another pundit in the media. I think that more and more he's becoming a serious figure in an American culture, an American punditry in politics. I don't really see him becoming less relevant unless he resigns or gets taken off the air or what have you. Maybe then he'll lose his relevance, but as of right now, he's a very powerful figure in especially conservative or Republican partisan politics. The president listens to him. Many important people listen to Tucker Carlson's show and listen to Tucker Carlson himself when he speaks. And it is because he is someone worth listening to, in my opinion. And that is why, specifically, Media Matters and a whole slew of other leftist outlets have attacked him. They are attempting to silence him because they do not want him to question the orthodoxy, even in some ways regarding the right. I would imagine they don't want him questioning the orthodoxy. I have to imagine that some people are linking up with Media Matters for the sake of him not questioning certain conservative or Republican orthodoxy that exists, especially around the economy, because that's what Tucker's doing, as I can see, more and more. When Tucker Carlson's making class arguments on his show routinely, you should question why. Not whether he's right or wrong, but for the sake of, why is Tucker Carlson, a well-known conservative pundit, why is he making class arguments on his own show on the quote-unquote conservative network? Why is he having to do that? That should really, boggle your mind. But it's something that is occurring currently. And I in no way fault him for doing that. I encourage more people, whether they're the left or the right, to question the state of the United States, because I won't agree with the bleak estimation of Paul Joseph Watson. Maybe it's true for certain parts of Europe, but I don't think it's true for the United States. I think that despite how bad things are, and I've already said, like, if there's anywhere that I'm black-pilled, it's in culture. That's where I'm black-pilled at the moment, because it's just getting worse and worse, and like I see no way of it rebounding currently. But in terms of society as a whole in the United States, I do think that we are slowly but surely setting ourselves up for an actual rebound, where enough normies are at least going to be willing to silently go with the people that aren't going to destroy our society. I think that we are headed in that direction. We're not currently there, but I do get the feeling based on what I see in a variety of polls and anecdote and the rest of things, and in media, people bringing up important issues and it being something that people see as important and that they pay attention to. A lot, millions of people. It's those kind of things that lead me to believe that despite all the bleak things that are happening in American society, that things will rebound so long as people are paying attention, and that more normies are won over to the side of, whether it's left or right, it's the people that are sane and don't want to see our fucking country unravel. For the rest of Europe, I can't say the same, honestly, especially when you look at the United Kingdom and what's currently going on. That happened, I think it was yesterday or maybe even today, with, I believe it would be called Article 50, but with the issue of taking no deal off the table of Brexit, how that forces the United Kingdom into the position of having to take a shit deal, and now they're having to run back to the European Union to beg for an extension so that they can come up with some crappy deal to actually take, even though the United Kingdom or the European Union's just clearly not interested in negotiation anymore. So for Europe, I think that if you want to be black-pilled, that's up to you. I can't really speak to it because I'm only so aware of the politics there and the cultural situation. I do think in the United States, though, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But the problem that I see is culture. Culture, whereas, with Paul Joseph Watson, he criticized it as being utterly just bleak and awful, and there's just, like, we are watching comedy die all across the world, at least, I should say, I can't speak to the whole world, but in the Western world, it's true, and that goes for movies, music, in large part, not entirely, but you are watching entire mediums, entire industries like the comic book industry and others just fucking die off. And in the gaming industry, I don't even have to tell you, it's one of the main topics on my channel. You are seeing nothing but a deluge of fucking garbage, and yet people still buy it, probably out of boredom. That's probably why people are playing Apex Legends and all these other generic as shit fucking games that I watch, and it boggles my mind, and it begs the question to me, like, why anyone's playing this absolute generic filler trash. And the only answer I have to that question is, it's just something to play. It's something to keep their attention. That's literally all I can come up with. Like, I understand why people played and liked Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, I understand as many of the criticisms as I have for that game, like, I get it. But with the plenty of the games that come out, like, they're just nothing but carbon copy filler. Like, it just makes no sense to me. But I think that to me is a bleak sign of where we are, that you can come out with absolute throwaway trash and millions of people are going to fucking play it. And the reason is because there is nothing better on the market that isn't like some fringe content, Before I get to the funny aspect of this, I'll talk about Media Matters and what kind of organization it is, because I actually think that many people are not intentionally, but mistakenly misrepresenting the actual organization. Tucker Carlson accused it of being a propaganda arm for the Democratic Party, and that's true. It is just a propaganda tool for, it's a PR thing for the Democratic Party. It's a attack dog to go after their enemies, especially Republicans, but also to prop up the, certain Democrats. But the thing is that Tucker Carlson actually, even himself and many others, not just him, but with Tucker on his own show, he actually misrepresented the organization in that it's primarily a Hillary Clinton PR firm. It was set up by David Brock, who himself is like a former conservative turned ridiculous neoliberal Democrat who is the worst of the worst style, like in bed with Clinton loyalist. Like, he is a fanatical Clinton loyalist. That would be the most accurate way to describe him. There are some people like that who are fanatical Clinton loyalists, like diehard in the wool dead enders who will go down with her. That is David Brock. That is Media Matters. And so when you say that it's, a PR firm for the Democratic Party, or it's a branch of the Democratic Party, yes, but for Clinton. That's the part. It's not just for Democrats. It's for Clintonite Democrats. That is who that organization goes after. And guess what? Tucker Carlson is an enemy of Clinton and Clintonites, Heraculates. So that organization is going after him for that reason. It is not simply because he's just another pundit on the right. He's not just another conservative. Yes, are they going after Laura Ingraham? Are they going after Sean Hannity? Are they going after the hacks and the partisans and all that jazz? Yeah, they are doing that. But I'm telling you, the reason why specifically they're going after Tucker Carlson is because he is no longer, he's broken the mold. He is off the reservation. He is now going after the left in a way that challenges not just the progressives and the SJWs and the commies, but also the Clintonites, that establishment element of the Democratic Party. He's no longer towing the line of playing, well, you're the Democrats and we're the Republicans, and really what's the difference? Let's be bipartisan, that kind of bullshit. He's actually off the reservation, so to say, in that regard. He's no longer playing the two-party game shit. I mean, he does do that partisan shit from time to time, as I've already said, but he's openly said that the Republicans are just as culpable for the immigration issues that we have as are the Democrats. Like, he's flat out said that on his show repeatedly, that the Republicans are just as guilty, and it's for the sake of cheap labor. That's specific. He says it himself. That's why, and it's true. That's absolutely true. And I can't imagine any insider in the Republican Party, any part of the establishment, likes him saying that. I can't imagine anyone likes him saying the truth, that that's the reason why the Republicans like open borders, is for the cheap labor. I would have to imagine there's very few capitalist-style Republicans, capitalist-style conservatives, that like him telling the truth about that fact. Because that is a nativist sentiment, by the way. Like, I haven't really talked much about nativism, and I won't here just for the sake of brevity. And I know that this is already going to be kind of long. But when you talk about immigration, and you talk about the issue of what people are calling replacement, but it's that you're bringing in slaves to work for nothing, do your bidding, vote the way you want them to, and otherwise be fucking silent. That people call that replacement, among other things. And people that don't like that see that for what it is, those are nativists. It happened a long time ago. A good example is like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, with the Germans, the Polish, the Italians, the Irish, etc., them coming to the United States en masse. There was a lot of nativist sentiment back then, and a lot of times it got violent, especially in the urban areas between the different groups and all that, factions. There's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Gangs in New York, that's what it is. A lot of the plot of that movie is about that, in fact, of like the nativist sons of the revolution versus the fucking immigrants, with Liam Neeson as the Irish preacher guy who Bob the Butcher, Bill the Butcher, whatever his name is, who kills in the beginning. And they really stylize it up in that movie to say, like, oh, all the minorities, all the new arrivals are together. That's bullshit, bro. That's fake history, man. Whether it was the Jews or the Irish or anyone else, man, they all fucking hated each other. And all you have to do is have like a grandfather or someone who's a distant family member, not even that distant ancestor, who arrived on a boat. Dude, they all fucking hated each other. That's the truth of the matter. The Catholics didn't like the Protestants, and the Germans didn't like the Irish, and the Irish didn't like the Italians, and nobody liked the Jews, nobody liked the blacks, and the blacks didn't like anybody else. And the nativists certainly didn't like any of the groups, and especially the Protestants didn't trust the Catholics, who they called the Papists, and, the Protestants, and I would imagine the Catholics didn't like the Jews because they're Christ killers and all that jazz. That was all real back then, man. That was all real. They hated each other, man. That whole enclave shit and, you better not miscegenate, all that shit, man, that was all real back then. They fucking hated each other. And what exacerbates those differences and that kind of strife in a society is when you bring in people too high a number. And that is simply what we're seeing today. That is exactly what we're seeing today. Our immigration rate is too high. We're bringing in too many immigrants. They're not assimilating. Some are, but many are not. And there's no social stigma to force them, and there's barely any laws to force them to assimilate. Man, all right, we got fucking people running all over this country, not speaking the language, driving without a license, getting into fucking car crashes, killing people, and they're not even getting fucking deported. Like, there's judges letting them loose for the sake of not wanting to deport them and shit. Our country really needs to get it together around immigration. And I've already said that we need to seriously talk out the issue of what's happening in the United States and whether we can handle the fucking amount of people we're bringing in, and point out the fact of who wants these people brought in, whether it's utopians on the left, cynics on the left that want them as voting blocks, or people on the right that want cheap labor and they want empty-headed masses that will just consume, and not question the ruling class and their desires and their goals and that. People can bitch and moan and say whatever they want to about me. Many of the people on the right are simply capitalists. That is what they are. The people that want that shit. People that want open borders like the Koch brothers and Ben Shapiro and others. What describes them is that they are capitalists. That is their primary ideology. That is their primary belief set. It is simply what makes investors money. What makes executives money. What makes rich people more money. What benefits rich people. They are capitalists. These are the people that have to pay capital gains tax, okay? It's not fucking me. I don't have any investments. I have no stocks, okay? I'm not the one paying fucking capital gains tax. Those are the people paying capital gains tax, okay? They're making money from money. They're the capitalists. If you have a better way of fucking describing them, please let me know. But I think I am being very accurate in describing what they believe, what their motivations are, and what faction they're a part of. Doesn't make capitalism fucking bad, but simply there are conflicting interests in the public, okay? Not everyone has the same fucking interests. That should be self-evident for anyone with half a fucking brain. I don't like the fact that people, for whatever reason, don't like me using the word. They don't like me calling these people what they are, when that is simply who I'm talking about. Are there going to be some right-wing ideologues that believe it for the sake of believing it? Yes, obviously. But in large part, the people that are funding this shit, the people that are paying donations for this shit, people that are politically campaigning for this, that are behind the scenes, they're capitalists. That's what fucking describes them. If you want to have some conspiracy about whatever the fuck they are, reptilians or Jews or whatever the fuck, go ahead and have your conspiracy theory. But the fact is, the conspiracy is, it's capitalists that want to make money by cheapening labor costs. That's it. That's the fucking conspiracy. It's nothing more than that. But speaking of some of the things that I just mentioned in terms of conspiracies, Media Matters is run by a man named Angelo Carlson. And he is this femi gay guy and partisan hack. But people from the Daily Caller, I think it was, they looked up some old blog posts by him, and as it turns out, he's actually said a bunch of bad shit himself, and in some ways, many things that are worse than what Tucker Carlson said, especially if you're someone on the left and you're the head of a leftist partisan media organization. He spoke poorly about transvestites, or I think or transgender people. I'm not really sure, because a person who's transgender is not the same as being a transvestite. I actually don't like transvestites. I don't like transvestites because a lot of times it's now bleeding into fucking children now. And, dressing them up, one, and probably fucking them, too. But I'm not into that shit, and I take issue with that. But he talks about them disparagingly in a blog post. He jokes about a coach having sex with his students. He makes light of that, and apparently certain cases that have happened in Japan, he makes light of that, and calls Japs Japs. He uses what is considered a slur to reference people who are Japanese, or I guess just Japanese nationals specifically. He, for whatever reason, praised fucking Robert Byrd, who was a senator from West Virginia. He's a well-known Democratic senator who was in the Ku Klux Klan and was apparently an ally of Hillary Clinton back in the day. Like, there's a famous picture of him kissing Hillary Clinton on the cheek, and it's like juxtaposed oftentimes with him like with a Klan hood and then the garb and shit. So yeah, this dude, from what I know, was in the Ku Klux Klan and is said that he's a former Grandmaster, and that's pretty fucking crazy. But he praises him for whatever reason in this post, and I am not really sure why that is. It could be sarcastic, but being that he is a Clinton shill, it really begs that question of, are you joking, dude? Like, this could be a joke because of the context of the actual blog post, but the issue is, though, that you are tacitly connected to him. Like, this isn't, like, I don't want to do this guilt by association thing, but it's simply one step. You are associated with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is associated with this former Klansman. And you are a foaming at the mouth, flaming fucking, flaming gay, yes, but also flaming fucking loyalist to Clinton. Like, you are a fanatical loyalist just the same as your fucking boss, David Brock. This is what this organization is known for. I've never known this organization, anyone who's worked for it, to be anything other than the most diehard Clinton loyalists. And guess what? Clinton has an association with a former Klansman. And you're praising the guy. Come on. Several references to jewelry, Jewish gold in his blog post, but I think these are a joke because his partner, quote-unquote, is a Jew. So I think that this is just jokes. But, you know, if this was anyone on the right, they probably would have been already thrown under the bus by Ben Shapiro. So I don't really care about him making jokes about Jews, especially when his partner's Jewish. I mean, I know that we're supposed to hold the left to their own standard in that way, and I've already said that by now, you know, if this was anybody else, they would already be their career would be over and all that jazz. They would have definitely already been fired. But the point of why I'm talking about this, why I'm talking about Angelo here, is that, you know, this is all they do all day. This is all Media Matters does all day. This is all what Hope Not Hate does. What the fuck is the Southern Poverty Law Center, and a few others who I can't really remember offhand. This is all they do all day. They run around, they find quotes, they quote mine, and they try to end careers. They try to ruin people's reputations. They try to destroy people for the sake of their own political power game. Like, this is all power politics. This is all for the sake of winning elections, winning power in politics. It's what all this is about. That's all the organization, Media Matters for America, is about. That's all it is about, is power politics, Saul Alinsky tactics, you know. That's all this is about. All of these standards as well that the left holds up, it's also, in large part, nearly entirely about power politics, and so is the whole demand for him to apologize, for him to get fired, for him to be removed, and to step down and resign in shame and all that jazz. It's all about destroying him for the sake of Democrat politics, leftist politics, Democrat and leftist gains. It's purely what this is about. And what I'm glad to see is that, at least this time around, many conservatives are rallying around a good conservative to defend him in the face of partisan, cynical, power politic attacks that are wholly cynical, are in no way 0% genuine from anyone who's referenced them as any kind of important thing. It's purely partisan. It's purely for the sake of trying to destroy someone for their own personal gain. And at least this time, people are standing up for Tucker in defending him in what he said a decade ago on a Bubba the Love Sponge, a few different shows of his. And I'll end this by saying that the standard should be, from now on, although it won't be, what we would hope the standard to be in the future is that if you have some bad associations, with Hillary Clinton and the Klansmen, as an example, or Bubba the Love Sponge and your Tucker Carlson, if you have some bad associations, if you said some bad words, if you've had some incendiary things to say, and some bad takes, especially like people referenced into the comment section, fucking Ben Shapiro wrote an article, an op-ed, like a long time ago, it was like 2003, where he's basically arguing for an ethno-state in fucking Israel. And no, I'm not joking. Like, that's basically the outline of what he's fucking arguing for. Like, we are going to physically remove the fucking Arabs. Like, that's a fucking red pill, a hot take, a spicy take by fucking Ben Shapiro there. Holy shit. But he has since said that he has disavowed that opinion of his back then. But the point is that I was about to say, like, I do think that is still in some way where his fucking head is at, and I think that is still true. But the thing is that I don't think it's right to hold that over Ben for the sake of morally, like, clubbing him. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right to, I don't give a fuck that fucking Hillary Clinton is kissing this Klansman, okay? I don't give a shit. My bigger issue is with the fact that she fucking overthrew what's-his-face in Libya, fuck that country, and if she would have won the presidency, she would have fucked this country. That's what I'm concerned about with Hillary Clinton. It's not the bullshit she said. It's not her pulling out hot sauce packets on that rap show in New York City. It's not any other bullshit things that people have said, the bad words they've used. It's, some random guy on Twitter dug up a video of fucking Bernie Sanders, poor Bernie, saying the word niggardly from the 80s, which I laughed at the second I saw it, because it's like, if everyone is so petrified of the use of the word nigger nowadays, but it's like, you know what the difference between me saying the word nigger and Bernie Sanders, who is the fucking messiah of the left, in large part? The difference between me and him is 2 letters, man. It's 2 letters at this point. Niggardly. That's actually more than 2. Whatever. Whatever the fuck. 5 letters? Whatever the difference is. But my point is, despite the fact that I'm having difficulty counting letters, the issue is with it, though, neither one of us are racist. Neither one of us is calling black people niggers. Neither one of us is bigoted in that way. And the fact is that the use of the word should not indicate that just in its use alone makes you a racist. It should be the context of you using it, how you're using it, and what you purport, what you self-identify with. Because oftentimes, if somebody has a problem with black people, they're just going to admit it. They're just going to tell you they have a problem with black people. Like with Muslims. Do I have a problem with Muslims? Yes, I have a problem with Muslims. I have some bad personal experiences with Muslims. I don't like the Muslims in my area. They seem pretty fucking sketchy, and they're very mean and disrespectful and rude. But also that, they have a propensity to fucking violence, and they are not adjusting to Western life very well by all appearances. Now, I'm not going to act on what you could call prejudice in that way. I'm not going to run around and hurt people or anything else, but I am going to advocate that we lower the immigration rate to about as close to 0 as possible for Muslims in America. The ones that are here that can stay by, every rate, but the fact is that the ones that are here need to integrate, and we need to stop letting more in, because the numbers game is a real issue when it comes to Muslims, as any fucking nation that has let too many in has realized by now. That's just a sad fact of fucking reality. But in relation to, the use of words, like, you don't hear me call Muslims like packies or towel heads or any of that bullshit. You don't hear me say any of those words. I never have used any of those words. I don't know. Go back on my channel. Go do what Media Matters did to Tucker Carlson. Go dig through my channel. Find me using slurs against Muslims. I don't think I ever have. But I'll sit here and say that I think the immigration should be closest to 0 as possible, specifically for Muslims. I will tell you that right here and now. It doesn't require you to use bad words in order to have a prejudice or to have an issue with a group, okay? You don't have to be this foaming at the mouth fucking bigot. You don't have to use certain words in order to have a problem with a group. It could be as simple as you just... And the thing is that if you're not afraid of just stating your opinion, you'll just state it. There's no dog whistle. There's no cloak to hide behind. There's no man in a hood. You know, if you have an earnest position, if you're confident in a position, you will just state it. And that will go down the line for racists. I've met racists. I've run into racists. Bro, they're not going to pull punches. They will flat out tell you what their issues are with whatever group, okay? They'll just tell you. And in the United States, we need to get back to where we once were, especially in the late 80s and in the 90s, but in large part where our culture was headed, where race was a joke. Race was treated as a joke. That's where we need to get back to. We need to get back to the time where race was treated as a joke and that people can just be frank. Not make it about black, white, whatever, but just say, listen, if, you're a father, you should stick with your family. If you're a young child, you should not be doing some crazy shit, just because you don't have a dad. That's not an excuse. If you're a scumbag on welfare or workers' comp, get off your fucking ass, get a goddamn job, and earn an honest fucking living. So, I mean, put me out of business, for Christ's sake. Do it. Put me out of a fucking job. At least I'll know that fucking all the goddamn pieces of shit in this nation have actually done something with their lives and aren't sitting at home earning fucking like $500 every 2 weeks. Sit at home all day in their fucking trailer being worthless. Utterly useless as a person. Don't be that person. Be useful in life. Have a life. Do something with your life. Get a goddamn job. I don't even care. Don't do anything. Just get a goddamn job. But I'll end it there. Hopefully this was worth a shit. Thanks for listening.